Having no elected chair, and by consensus, I'm willing to voluntarily chair the meeting again, and then we'll kind of go from there. So I'll call us to order. And then Mrs. Chris, if you could take roll call, please.
Sure.
Kelly,
Here.
Delicia,
Present.
Thomas, Shirley. Here. And Madrid.
Yep.
All right.
And I don't know if this is a good time to do it, but we just really want to welcome Carlos Madrid to the commission. We're really excited for you to be here.
Thank you.
We'll talk some more kind of about where we are and, some maybe training and a little bit
Right.
of orientation,
Yeah,
kind of how we,
That's a lot of what I really need is some of the,
Okay.
where we're at right now, so I know
Yeah.
where we're concentrating on, so I can like be on the same level,
you bet.
of course.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea, so we'll talk about that. We do have, just sort of by the way, without getting too much out of the order, a work session coming up on the 14th.
Okay.
Is that correct?
Monday, next
Monday.
Next.
10 a.m.
Can you make it at 10 or is that a good time for you?
Anytime in the daytime is fine. It's the evening is planning, zoning, and various commission is doing a work session. So
So we're saying Monday the 14th at 10 a.m.?
that'll work.
Okay. So that's where we can have a little bit more just sort of informal discussion and talk about those
And
things.
maybe Chris will give you a notebook like this? to-
Yes, and we've got this lovely heavy duty
That's your homework.
I want one of
notebook
those.
that has the ordinance, lots of the
Good.
certified local government info, and Chris will be able to set you up with that when
That'd be
she
awesome.
gets some time.
That would
So
be awesome.
it's just helpful to have, and
I can lend you mine if she didn't get it to you. I should get mine and
I need to thin this
Get it
one.
to you.
Oh my goodness. Okay, number 2 on our agenda is for public comments. Chris, did you reach the individual you were trying to reach?
I called Jeff Cochran at the number he provided for us, and there was no answer.
Okay. Do you
I
have
was-
any suggestions about?
I was in contact with him via email last week, because we were having problems the previous month getting in touch with each other, so I said, you have to promise me that you'll be at the next meeting, and he promised,
Can I
so.
clarify, where is this application in the review process? Is it already through
Well,
planning and zoning, or?
it doesn't require a planning and zoning application, however, he is located, or this building is located in the historic preservation district.
It says
So-
it's a contributing element as well, which.
Yeah, but it's not, I couldn't get anyone to comment on it, because it's not considered a historic building, even though it is in the historic district, and there's lots of history on it that I pulled. But, I couldn't get anybody from the state to comment on it, and basically his process is to have a review by Historic Preservation Commission, and then he can proceed to permitting and get a permit to do this proposed work. But there's no conflicts with our current code as to do this.
Let me make sure I understand you. So you're saying he's not required by our municipal code to come before the commission to get any kind of
At this time, we would have to see wet plans that are stamped by an architect to do the review. These are just proposed
okay.
items that he's put before us, but these aren't final plans.
So
And
are
he'd
we
have to
thinking
bring
about
final
tabling
plans.
it for a while,
have to,
'Cause I think
because,
we all have questions about
I
this,
do.
right? I mean, I do too,
Questions.
so.
right, and he would be the one to answer those, so it looks like we're gonna be putting it off another month, which he's not gonna be happy about, because that's another month that he can't build, you know?
Right,
You
and
should have
he
been
would
here.
come,
That's what I
answered my
say.
questions and been done with it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Would it be, and I think I know the answer to this question, but I'll ask it anyway, is it appropriate for us, given the fact that we have some questions, to kind of do a list of those questions and send them to him? Or
Sure.
should we be doing it in the public hearing, form?
We could say that we started the preliminary review and we had to table it because of these questions,
Okay,
and then table it for next month.
if
Yeah.
you all
Could we
think
email our
are agreeable,
questions?
can we
Yeah,
take
and-
some time to do that, so we can keep this kind of moving?
Yeah, and I can note the questions, or you can
Okay.
email them to me. I don't think there's a problem with that.
Well, why don't we just get a list of at least try to get a list of the questions now, and if you wouldn't mind recording them, and then you can email them to him.
Sure.
Shirley, do you wanna start with your questions?
Okay, here we go.
Or if you need more time,
Oh, that's Frankie and Jay. Is that the same one, Frankie and Jay?
No, this is a different, isn't he a different area?
Now,
Yes, it's
you
the
have to remember that Jeff Cockrum is, he's presenting on the owner's behalf. So he may not have all of the questions answered for this owner, so he'd probably need time
sure.
to check them out too. I'm not sure until I know the questions,
Okay.
of course.
I have a couple of questions I can start
That'd
with.
be super.
Sure.
Reading through the description and everything, it sounded like the building was just a shell when he first started working on it, whenever. Is
Yeah,
that-
at one
I'm
time
wondering
it
if that's
was,
true.
but the commercial front area is built up now. In that picture that you see
Uh-huh.
in the application is what it looks like now, the green
Right.
frontage.
But my question is, in some of the pictures, it shows it tumbling down in the back, and so is it all rebuilt in the back?
Yeah.
With just the
Yeah.
facade left?
it has been.
That was a picture at one point in time that I pulled from the,
And the facade would stay the same?
yeah,
And all the
all
buildings in
of this
back? where you're gonna
proposed building is in the back area where the residential will be.
One other question was, in one place in this application, it mentions that, there's no historic significance, but in another place it mentions that there is, so I was just wondering about that clarification.
That's a good question.
And I think that was all my questions.
Thank you, Shirley. Give Chris a minute to record those, and then maybe Carlos, if you have some questions or comments.
I have one more resource to check on to find out if they can comment. All right, Carlos?
Well, the same thing was about the historic, the same question that we just
Is
talked
it?
about there.
Right.
What is it
Yeah, what
considered
is
at
a
this time?
historic, yeah, because it's kind of ambiguous on here of what the historic value of it is.
Yeah,
And then the other thing was just, I mean, I do see the plan as far as what kind of their little plan is on some of these drawings here, but I mean, one of my big things, and I love about the historic district, is about the old painted signs on the building. And I know there's a huge one on this side of the building here where a lot of this
The
stuff's
ghost
going on.
sign?
Yeah,
Oh, the ghost signs.
so one of
that
my
almost
questions
had to
is,
stay.
yeah, like that is as far as I'm understanding is that's part of the historic significance of the building.
Right,
So that should stay and that shouldn't be changed any bit. So my big question is like, what's the plan around that? I mean, it looks like this covering here might, I do have some recent pictures, and I should have brought them, that I took of this building because of those ghost signs on the side there. And I kind of remember there being something above where this roof area is, but I'm not 100% sure. that's my big thing, is just to make sure that the ghost signs aren't
I would say.
blocked or covered or disturbed or anything like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's the open side as where he's proposing to build, and I'm hoping that's the opposite side of the ghost signs. So,
Yeah.
I will find out.
So, those are my two big questions.
Are they building in the back?
Yeah, it looks like, cause they're building on what looks like an elevator shaft or
I
a
know, I was
staircase.
kinda wondering how deep that was gonna go.
Because
But
looking at the back, this whole back area doesn't exist here, that's on this shrine.
Yeah.
Is that, yeah, that's the
Which
proposed.
is, which is this portion right here. This is brand new to it. This smokestacks exist, of course, the facade, and this part does exist. So, and that's another thing is, like, what's the extent of the little small building next door to it? Cause I know Frank,
The gift
the
shop?
owner, yeah, he bought that with the intent to do all this to it. So, I don't know, like, is there any kind of significance with that little building? How long has that been there?
Okay, that's good.
It's also in the
How
district.
can we refer to that specifically? Does it have a?
Little outbuilding.
Yeah, I mean, it's.
That is the same area that he's proposing to build a patio.
Building to
Yeah.
the side as
And that
well.
is, it does show it here on the, what is it, this, the inventory map, sketch map, as number 238, so, and the big building is 234,
238.
so it's 238, I know.
238.
Cause I do know his son, Jason, and I've talked to him about this, and he was telling me that they bought that with the intent of doing all this work. So, I don't know what the historical value of that building is. Like, how long has that been there? There's nothing in here that says anything about that building.
Yeah, I
He
mean,
didn't mention
that's
that.
why I was wondering, are they only building in the back? No, they're building to
No,
the side as
to
well.
the side as well,
Or are
yeah.
they gonna
And-
demolish that little building?
And adding an elevator shaft, which is very expensive.
Yeah,
But they could, I'm just thinking they might run into stuff.
They might.
I mean, I know that this whole back portion
Dinosaurs
here
or
was replaced,
artifacts or-
Oh.
so that is all brand new.
This is archaeology.
The
The
back
whole
portion
back
was-
portion of the building was brand new, cause as you see in those pictures, there's that one picture where the whole back end is demolished. So they did have to redo that, and that's been done. Yeah, in this picture here,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, it shows
that
it
was my
demolished, but
question.
this has totally been replaced.
Right.
It's a new facade there, and, I mean, I don't think, for me, myself, I don't think there's an issue with this shaft going in there, I mean, cause I do know that they own all the way up to the next door business on Ivy there. So I don't have anything with that, but my thing is just this small building, those ghost signs,
Okay.
historic significance.
I noted that.
That's good, I hadn't even thought of those two.
Thank you.
Yeah, that
Jean,
small
do you
building
have
is
any other
very big.
no questions? And I wonder too, just cause, this is kind of a process issue, in terms of a packet like this, and I think, you know, if Carlos sounds like he had some, it's okay if I call you Carlos?
Yeah, sure.
Background information on this aside from, you know, just what's presented on paper. So, and of course, if the applicant was here, we could ask questions about that, but I also just wondered, just going forward, you know, if there's a way to have these applications presented in a way that's just a little more, just easier to process. In other words, if there are comments that would help clarify, like,
What we're
you know, the
looking at.
date the picture was taken,
Right.
I don't know if the date is on any
No,
of those
no.
pictures, like,
Yeah, cause when I saw this one, I was like,
yeah.
Yeah, and
I know
was-
it looks like this now, so I'm guessing
Yeah.
this is what it looked like before this, but it's like, okay.
Yeah, I'm guessing as well, yeah, so.
When, if
Yeah.
I
So
had
these
a
are
process like to follow, I looked for the process for this review and it just said to be determined by Historic Preservation Commission. So I was like,
But
okay,
in one place it says
So-
that they consulted, well, they didn't say they consulted, they said they talked with someone, a man, and he had no issues, but I'm like, really? Kind of surprised me.
So your
yeah,
comment
they
is
had no
referring to,
comments.
you're referring to History Colorado?
Well,
Or
no, I'm referring to our own Historic Commission code. It just claims that we would have a process to follow. Now, we do have recommended,
And that's the process of putting one of these packages together.
yeah, and that would probably, I would take, like, I don't know if it would be me, it might be a professional, you know? But they would take all of this and incorporate it into a staff report and go, okay, on this
Right.
date,
Right.
we had this,
Right.
and all I did was put all the stuff together and
Yeah.
try, I go, I hope they know that this is old stuff and this
Yeah.
is newer
Right,
stuff.
right.
And, it would all be included in a nice little staff report,
So I
like you
don't
see
know
at
if
city
there's
council.
process.
a way to, and I'm not necessarily say, I mean, I don't know whose job that is, and Chris, and I know how much work you put into these, so it's absolutely no criticism to you about how the information was presented. It would just be really helpful so that we're making informed, you know, good sort of,
Right.
not necessarily decisions, but recommendations on stuff. If we had a process, you know, for the information that's coming towards us, but
Yeah,
maybe that's another sort of, again, process issue we can talk about in work session, but.
I know Jean was here, and when Georgie was here at that time, we were, working on recommended historic guidelines.
Right.
And I don't think we, the
I don't know if there was ever a
Historic
process.
Preservation
Mhm.
Commission ever got that far to go, okay, when you get an application for review, this is what we
Oh,
do.
okay, that's, I'm wondering.
So that
Yeah,
part
we
is,
need that.
it just says, when I look it up, it just says to be determined by the Historic Preservation
Okay,
Commission.
That's helpful just to, okay.
But there's some options that we could take, if we had some money, or we could, I don't know how this works, but Planning, Zoning and Variance Commission, they have little tablets.
Yeah.
And I
I'm wondering.
upload all of the information
Yeah.
into
Yeah.
a holding folder for them, a drive, and then they just pull it down, and they have, just like city council, they have those little tablets
That
and they
would
go
be a
through.
wonderful thing. if we
Wouldn't
could
it?
Also have that.
I'll put that down as a recommendation, but I don't know how that works, so I have to find out.
Yeah, if we could move that forward, I mean, I think that's really the basic essential tool for us to do our job responsibly, so, yeah, I wasn't aware, I knew they had some kind of packets, but I didn't know it was
I mean,
electronic.
that would eliminate your big book you have.
That's right.
Well, maybe not completely, but partly, it would be really, really helpful.
I don't know,
Oh, yeah.
sometimes it's just nice to have a piece of paper
Oh, yeah,
in front of you.
definitely, yeah, I would probably use the book more than I'd use the tablet myself, so.
Yeah, I don't know how they got them trained to use the tablet so well, but
But for
it
this
does
kind,
work.
but for
It
this
does
kind
work
of
very
stuff,
well.
I could see that being used for like these kind of things.
Yeah,
like,
lots of
you know,
documents.
documents and stuff like that, but when we're trying to do planning stuff like.
Yeah, well, and this is for like background materials mostly, you know, so if we had the ability to have like our agenda and minutes and then some of these explanatory documents on a tablet, that would be, cause I mean, I just feel, you know, I don't like having to print them all myself on my home computer.
I know.
Number one. Number two, just having them printed generally just seems, you know, such a waste, right? It's just, it's just so much
And
paper.
where are you gonna put it after you approve it? You don't have.
Yeah, and I'm not sure I don't wanna hold on to all that stuff.
I would until next month, though. Just
I'll leave the
for
timing to you,
checks.
but if we can keep pestering you about that, I will,
I
make a
got
note.
it down, I've noted it.
Well, and I never, in the 4 years I've been, we've never approved a land use application at this commission, at this preservation commission. We
I
have-
know, I didn't have anything to go by because of that. The only one we've had is the previous one that was put in by, Mr. Glenn.
For the Presbyterian church.
Yeah, for the church that's right next door.
Yeah, right
And
next-
he prepared everything
Mhm.
and just submitted it. It was like, I already know how this works, cause I do it for other cities, and he just submitted everything. So I didn't prepare,
That was easy to.
that one was
review,
easy.
actually, yeah.
But then I was trying to follow his,
Was that also called the land use application, or was it?
I don't
well,
think
I
so.
used our own application
Oh,
for this, and it's not really applicable in all sense of the word, but, yeah, he used a state application
That's right.
at that time, and when I went to his contacts with the state and asked them if they could comment on this application, they were like, no.
Why not?
They just said no comment, it's not of
No historic significance.
historic significance.
Because they rebuilt it, most of it.
Yeah, if it was
That's
a
what I was thinking.
landmarked
I'm like,
building or a, on the state historic register, they would be able to comment. But however, I was able to go to their website and pull down all of this old information.
Yeah, that's good.
Is
Yeah.
that the inventory?
Yeah,
Well,
That's why I was wondering, does it? Not, I mean, it's been rebuilt, so yeah, it probably doesn't have any, but I'm like, it's associated with all these people, but not that specific building because it's rebuilt.
yeah, I mean, if it was it's hard to say. The history, I don't know, other than what I read here. I couldn't, I mean, the church next door, of course, it has a lot of historical significance. But I'm sure this is still important to someone who lived there at one time or lives or has the building now. This would be very important information to them.
can I ask you a question, Chris? Do you know if History Colorado or is there a resource for us though, as a relatively new historic preservation commission in a relatively small town, to find some templates and some models so that we can, sooner rather than later, we need processes, we need, how do we evaluate information that comes to us that's non-standardized, like this is kind of. How do we evaluate stuff in a more methodical way as this other application was? So,
I thought I gave y'all the State Secretary of Interior's
You did.
guidelines
You did.
for reconstruction, and then we also adopted our own.
Right, that's what we did, this one, that's a 2-page thing.
so those are standards,
Right.
Yeah.
but they're not a policy or a process about this is what you do,
What we need,
to the planning administrator, to the commission, when you receive this information,
Yeah.
what do you do? And I just think it's probably fairly straightforward, and I'm sure someone else has done that, and I'm all for asking other commissions if they have samples that they could share with us. Is there anybody?
As far as like documents to support, to like submit.
Yeah, it's just a policy
put in
and
this.
procedure.
We need
It's
this. We
not-
I thought there was a checklist for
Recent
that.
pictures,
A
any kind of
checklist.
stuff.
It's a checklist.
Exactly.
So simple.
You have this, you
Yes.
have that, and here's the, I
Right.
thought
Or
we
we
had
do
that,
this, we do
I'll
that.
look for, I thought we had done something like that before, but it could be in the buried file somewhere. That's a good idea.
I wonder if we could, so is it possible to check, if it's already been done, it just kinda got lost in the shuffle, if we could ask, Georgie if she knows anything about that, and I don't wanna, perseverate on this too much,
Yeah, no, that's.
but
good.
if there's
We'll look for it.
either that, or if there's someone, a commission member that would like to,
I'll try to look through my files and talk to Georgie, how about that?
yeah, and maybe contact another,
Templates or a checklist, yeah.
commission
Yeah,
that's.
from what I could tell from the files, it looked like we had just gotten through our recommended standards,
Exactly.
and then we were going on to figure out our
I
processes.
see.
Right, it's about, you're right.
And we got sidetracked with our budget.
Yeah, no, it happens,
We've
totally.
been-
Maybe we talked about that even Monday.
Yeah, we'll put that on our, work session agenda. So what are we calling that? We're just talking about policies and procedures
Yeah.
for review, for reviewing.
For architectural review.
For architectural review.
Okay, good.
Okay, all right, if there's no other, comments or discussion on that, let's close the, public hearing. Is that appropriate, Chris? We consider this a public hearing even though the individual's not here?
Can y'all vote on tabling it?
Okay, so we've tabled, the actual public hearing and we'll forward those comments, via email to the applicant. So going on to the agenda, item number.
Motion, you have to have a motion, you wanna move?
Oh, do we need to move?
Yeah, she said.
Okay, sorry, didn't hear you.
Say it again.
I move, so I move that we forward our comments to the applicant and close the hearing at this point.
Or table?
Do I have to table it?
Motion.
Until he can
for
Till
further
he's
discussion
present.
until the applicant appears. Do we have a second?
I second that.
All right, Kelly,
Yes.
Delicio,
Yes.
Thomas, Shirley,
Yes.
and Madrid.
Yes.
All right.
We shall table it.
Thank you all. Number 3, approval of the minutes from the October 12th, 2022 meeting. Comments, questions?
I glanced at them, I didn't read them.
I didn't see any problems, it was very good, except that we didn't, I thought we were gonna put that, our meeting work session was coming on, so. I think we're just, I make a motion to approve the minutes of October 12th.
I do have a quick comment, and then I think we can certainly move on with it, and that is under unfinished business. B, we talked about the proposed time, we'll go up for a vote at the next meeting.
The meeting,
What will?
of our meeting.
The time of the meeting.
Oh,
Yeah.
So, and I think that, we just went ahead and I think by consensus agreed that we would change our meetings to the second Wednesday at 2:30 p.m.
Okay.
And if that's a consensus and we don't need to vote on it, I'm good with that, and we can just, move on with the minutes.
I'd state that we have a trial. If it doesn't work out,
Hopefully that guy doesn't come at 5:30 tonight.
Right, I mean, we just need to be clear, so this was posted?
yes, this was posted for 2:30 because
Okay.
Audra listened to the minutes and she thought that we had voted. And I was like,
good enough.
No, we didn't.
I don't know, but,
Okay.
Good.
but
Do
we
we
could
have
always
another one on
change
that
it back.
No. Good, now we're done.
Go ahead.
No, I didn't have any other questions really.
Okay. Was there anything else you were asking about the work session not being in here? Do you want that to be
No.
added? Okay. So with that, just the clarification about the meeting time, do we have a motion to pass the amended minutes of October 12th, 2022?
I move to pass the minutes, to approve the minutes of October 12th.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passed, thank you all. All right. Moving on to, public hearings. Our applicant for the public hearing of, 234 North Commercial Street is not present, and we've already, made some recommendations that will be forwarded and then postpone that public hearing until it's rescheduled. Is that adequate, Chris?
Yes.
You want him to come to December meeting?
He'll have no choice.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, moving on to new business under number 5. These are both basically considerations for new members. The first one at A being Mr. Lauren Rogers, and we do have Mr. Rogers' application in information that Chris sent to us. I don't know, does the commission want to hear from Mr. Rogers?
Sure.
Do you want to informally kind of tell us, we do have your application and we appreciate you
Hello.
being here, thank you so much.
Aye.
Well, my name's Lauren Rogers, and I don't know what you'd like to know. I'm a retired stagehand. I was in the business for like over 40 years in San Francisco, and came here to retire. So,
What kind of theater was it?
well, just theater in general, theater and audiovisual and conventions and public, yeah.
So, did you
technician.
say you were involved with Main Street Live already, or are you gonna?
I
be
am.
trying to use-
I
One
did when I
year?
first got here, like it was right towards the end of the COVID, and I did a few shows, and then I needed
Oh.
to take a break. But I'm doing the next one, so, which I have rehearsal tonight. And my house, my house is, I believe that it was built in 1881. It's on 3rd Street, right next to the temple. It's an old brick house, 2-story brick house, with the addition in like around 1910. And then there's a cottage next door that's been abandoned.
So you're in the
Gutted.
historic district.
Yes, I'm in the historic district, that, and so I have a cottage next door too that I think was built around 1910 or so, that the owner of the house that I live in now built for like his in-laws or something. So, yeah, so
So you
that's,
can landmark that property if it's over 50 years, so you can participate in the process like Tom did, just make it official, right?
Is a good segue into, I think it's a kind of only sort of fair to sort of let applicants know, because we would welcome, you know, you on the commission, and also to kind of, you know, if we're looking at a pie chart, you know, what do? We work on local landmarking.
Mhm.
It's a fairly big part of what the commission's work is. We do an outreach event, we did our first one, I guess I should say, last year, so we'll be doing an annual community, we call it Echoes of History, and
Preserving Trinidad's past.
preserving Trinidad's past. And so I could definitely see, you know, some benefit from having you contribute to that. And then as you just observed, some, you know, discussion about some of these applications, and I don't know, I think as we learn and educate ourselves in the community, you know, we're just really kind of trying to, you know, just sort of clarify what the actual duties and roles of the commission
Sure.
are, so that we are clear about that, and that we do have benefit, you know, to
Is
the
the,
community.
so the commission's relatively new, you overheard?
About 4 years,
About 4 years?
and it's become a certified local government
Oh,
Thank
by
you for
Historic
adding that.
Colorado, because that enables businesses that are historical value and to get grant monies.
oh, that's great. See, I love that, and I love the fact that they're doing the Fox Theater.
Yeah.
When I was in San Diego, there were, well, one of the theaters I worked in was built in 1912.
Mhm.
I forget. Anyway, it was the largest concrete theater west of the Mississippi for a while. And then there was the North Park Theater, which was an old vaudeville house turned movie house, of course, that had fallen into ruin and was doing punk shows. And the San Diego San Diego Comic Opera got a grant and some money and redid that. And then the Balboa Theater, which is downtown San Diego, which was built in probably around 1927, and it was also built in to honor Balboa, who discovered San Diego, and it's all this Moroccan tile and waterfalls on the side. So just to save things like that, and just like your Main Street is just, I love it here, just because of the history that's been preserved. I know that some of it's been lost, and it's great to try to stop that and honor the past.
And I think when I mention that is because I think a lot of us were drawn, I know myself included, to Trinidad because of all the historic architecture and the opportunities. And I don't think I had it at that time, though, a real understanding like maybe some of the other commissioners do about some of the technical aspects of what it means to be on the commission, including the obligations of the certified local governments program. So we do have some parameters within which we operate. That, again, we're just trying to learn more about and be more educated so that we can adhere to them.
And being a lifelong union member, I'm a little familiar with these kind of meetings and the way they operate.
Yeah,
So
they're
it's,
slow. Sometimes a little slow.
yeah.
But the
Oh,
theater,
yeah,
the Fox Fest
yes,
Theater
sometimes.
is the longest, was the longest open and used building west of the
Yes.
Mississippi.
Ah.
Before Longmont, Colorado. Wasn't it Longmont that has?
Yeah, I remember reading that. Yeah, that's just,
It's a really amazing building, and
yeah.
they hope to keep raising money. I guess they have the first phase covered, but not the rest of them.
Yeah, I went to the open house and talked to the gentleman that works with, what's her name? Dana Crawford?
Dana Crawford.
Dana Crawford.
Right.
I forget his name, but I remembered her name.
Chris Smith.
Chris
Yeah,
Smith.
Chris Smith, yeah.
So some of the nuts and bolts, you know, I'm you know, that we work on are making sure that this commission is funded in a stable and adequate manner. So that's something that we're kind of working on. Again, this outreach event, making sure that we kind of have that, you know, established, and that So regardless of who is on this commission 5 years from now, we'll have a map to follow and a blueprint about what that looks like. And then also just being represented and integrated into the workings and functions of the city, along with the other boards and commissions. We want the Historic Preservation Commission to be represented in a way that's meaningful, that our work is meaningful. We all have lives, and as much as we may love to come and talk about old buildings, you know, we want the work that we're doing, I want the work that we're doing to mean something and to be valued.
Chris, do you have any more of
by
those
the city?
the trifold flyer too, Chris?
Our
Our
brochure?
brochure, if you had one of these, yes, this was
Oh, it's
incentivized
just,
by Miss Kelly here. She did the preliminary work and layout and design and.
so this kind of is a good reflection of kind of where we are in our developmental stage, that we are maybe past a baby step, but
Yeah.
we're still in the toddler.
Right.
So we have some growing and some fundamentals to put together, so just kind of with that, you know, just so you're aware that those are real needs that I see. Does anybody else wanna kind of chime in on what you think is where we are as a commission?
Well, even our recording artist here has a house that you might want to take a view of. Their Chappelle House was home there, Murphy. That guy right there, that's Tom Murphy, who
It's looking behind
was our
me.
first presenter at our first event,
Oh,
held May or June something. And he gave us digital tour, a virtual tour of the building and a speech that talked about the history of his building and how long, since 1980, he's been cultivating the beautiful restoration of that building, so.
yes, very nice.
And I hope to get buried there because it has a beautiful, beautiful view of the Trinidad sign.
Oh, that's
That window
right,
coming
yeah.
out.
Told her next month is open.
Next month is open, he tells me so I have to go get my application and you have to make a reservation.
Do you have any questions for us or for Chris Hall?
I don't think so, no.
I would just like to comment that there's currently 5 seats on Historic Preservation Commission. And if we have an opening coming up soon, we would definitely consider your application. And I wish we could have you join now.
Well, can't we just have them, like you said, as a standby?
We
In
could
case,
vote
I
for
would
it
take-
as
sure,
a
if
standby.
you'd like me to do that,
I'd
I don't
like to
have a
vote,
problem
because
with
it's-
that.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
if some of us are missing or one of us has being sick and we can't come, then we have a quorum. We have to have a quorum to make any votes.
Of course you do, yes, right.
So I would like to
Well,
make a
but
motion.
we'd also really just like to have a permanent member, I think, of the commission that will come to meetings and
Yeah.
be a
Yeah.
functional
Yes.
part of our commission, so.
And you look like you have a lot of passion for our building and for
I do,
history.
yes.
So Chris, given that, are we stating that we're asking for a vote on recommending Mr. Rogers?
That would totally be up to the commission.
Okay,
As a standby.
well,
As a
let's,
member.
I will propose a motion that we vote to recommend Mr. Lauren Rogers to be a standby commission member at this point, and make a recommendation of that to our city council.
Yes.
And that the city council will make the final decision on that. Do we have a time frame?
Have to be approved by the city council at the next meeting, right?
Correct.
Okay.
You don't think they'd approve adding 6 just as a,
And they just set it up as 5, but it's always good to have a standby, just in case somebody steps down
If
or
that's
is
permitted, if
not
that's
showing
allowed,
up at meetings.
then I would move that we proceed with the recommendation
already
of the
too.
city council.
I
As
second that.
FYI, if you miss 2 consecutive meetings, then you could be voted off.
well,
So
that's,
we're at
Voted
that
off.
point right now.
well, should we vote? I thought it was 3, but it's 2?
Is it 2? I thought it was 2, but I will check on
We'll
that.
look at our order.
Okay, so we have a second,
yeah.
do we have,
Yes.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
So I have to vote Kelly,
yes,
Delicio,
Yes.
Thomas, Shirley,
Yes.
Madrid.
Yes.
Okay.
thank you
very
so
for
much,
your time.
it's really great to meet you.
We'll all be in touch.
Okay, new business B.
Glad you have that.
Hmm?
Glad you have the flag.
Oh,
Be fair.
consideration of, so I was appointed to fill a vacant position. My, appointment ends on November 15th, so we have to, go through the same thing that we just did, which is make a recommendation, that my appointment, continue. Do we have a time frame though, Chris? Are we saying this? I kinda like to know what what we're thinking.
For a
of
full,
I think you can go ahead and recommend, consideration of appointment at this time.
for a full term.
And I believe it's on here that if you do have enough members, you can consider a chair and a vice chair, once you have appointed members appointed.
She's talking about how long is her term. There's 3 members that are supposed to have 2-year terms, according to our ordinance, I think.
Correct, but I think both of
That's these
Ms.
2.
Kelly and Ms. Delicio re-upped,
Right.
and
I only
then-
want a 1-year term.
but you re-upped.
Right. But I don't know if you want a 2-year or a 1-year, because I think you can, I think we have 2 members that have 2-year terms, which is
I
Shirley
think I just, yeah,
and
almost into my first year.
Carlos. I think you have a 2-year term as a new member.
Was it 2? I thought it was 4 or
And then
3.
you, oh, maybe.
It's 3.
Yeah, there's a 2 and a 3 and a 4,
Oh.
just to confuse people.
Boy, that's,
You can go
Yes.
for 4.
I think mine was 2, I'm not sure.
So what's available
You-
right now?
Whoever shows up, we
You-
wanna keep them.
You had the one that you took over somebody's term,
Right.
Miss Kelly.
Correct.
Oh, I have it too.
I was thinking
So
mine's
it's
2.
okay.
I think those were 2.
I don't wanna go any further until,
I think 2
It's
years.
yeah, because there are different assignments for different people, and I don't even have that on these notes
I know.
that they
She didn't
put
have
down,
either.
out here.
Yeah.
Well, to keep things moving then, can we,
How about we do both appointments at the same time? Mine and yours.
make it have a motion to reappoint Elizabeth Kelly and Jean Delicio to the commission, terms to be determined,
Yeah.
pending a vote, final vote from city council.
Okay.
Oh, that's a good idea.
I make that motion.
I second it.
Do you wanna take the
Shirley,
vote? Call the vote, please.
Kelly,
Yes.
Delicio,
Yes.
can you vote on yourself?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Themselves.
Alright, never mind those 2. Well, then we don't have a quorum.
We don't, we need Derek here.
So
don't
yeah, I just need to do one at a time,
Okay, well,
So-
you know, so I have the 3. So for
Oh, well.
Elizabeth Kelly, I'm gonna say Delicio.
Yes. Oh, no, I'm not supposed to vote for myself. Yes.
Yes.
Well,
Kelly.
we're doing for
Yes, for
Elizabeth Kelly.
Right.
Okay,
Delicio
Yes.
and Shirley
yes.
and Madrid.
Yes.
Okay, and then for Jean Delicio, do you want the same motions?
Yes.
Yes.
Same motion.
Okay, so Kelly,
Keep it simple.
we're
Yes.
voting for Delicio,
Yes.
Thomas, not here, Shirley,
Yes.
and Madrid.
Yes.
Alright.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for keeping us on the straight and narrow.
That was gonna be a testy one.
Alright.
So now you can go on and appoint your chair or vice chair whenever you like.
Did you want
So
a
we
motion?
don't need to get,
But do we need one other person to do that?
but do we need to have a final vote from city council before we do that? Cause we're not actually reappointed yet.
All this parliamentary stuff is too much.
Yeah,
Or
I
we can do it.
recommended that we all have a class, including myself.
Well, let's just wait till the council approves it.
That one.
Okay.
That's
I
fine,
think
we
we
can
should
table the second
recommend.
part till,
So we
Whenever
will
you feel
table the
like it.
appointment of chair and vice chair until we have an official announcement.
That's perfect.
Sounds good.
There we go.
Alright. Number 6, unfinished business. A, city-owned buildings, landmarking, status update on City Hall and the historic Trinidad Golf Course Clubhouse. Ms. Hall.
I am very excited to state that, early or late last week, we did receive the report for City Hall's landmarking. So it was too late to put it on this agenda, but we will have the landmarking review for City Hall in December.
And we can get that packet in physical form before the meeting, right?
Of course.
Okay.
And then my city manager proposed that we're gonna move to a different building, and I was like, what?
That's too
City
bad.
Hall?
That's a really cool building.
Really?
I know, and I go,
Where?
but what about this building? And it will be here forever,
What
so
are you gonna move to?
I have no idea. That's the first I've heard of that.
Oh my gosh, we gotta stay there. That's interesting.
Sounds kind of exciting, because it's.
And the golf course is on the next,
Then we'll proceed with the golf course,
so that's Wings on, the lady.
possibly.
Oh no, she's doing, we might move the offices of
So
City
are
Hall
we
somewhere.
saying that we're having a public hearing on the City Hall landmarking application next meeting?
Mm.
Possibly, if I've gotta go through the whole process again and make sure that we notify everybody prior to the meeting, everything's gotta be followed, I's dotted, T's crossed.
What is our meeting date in December? Yeah, I don't have my
Second Wednesday.
phone open.
Second Wednesday is the 14th.
December 14th. Okay.
December 14th.
2:30.
Yeah. Okay, do we need to talk about anything else on that point?
And she's also.
clubhouse?
Yeah, the clubhouse. Is that on hold, the clubhouse? That's a good question.
I need to defer that to legal to find out if the golf, it's something about the people that are there now. We have to notify them, and I'm not sure of the timing of it, if it's okay. So I'm gonna defer that to legal until I know the answer to that question.
Okay.
And then the other 3 buildings are still getting in that budget for this year?
Yes, and then we'll continue to landmark the city-owned buildings unless something comes up for landmarking that's brought to us by the public, and then we want to make sure that they're taken care of in a timely manner.
Is there a deadline for the control?
I believe it's 45 days from the time of application. Like, for the public to turn in an application, we have to
Review it and turn.
review it and
Give it-
turn it around in a timely manner.
We might tell Mr. Lauren about the other 3 buildings that we're proposing to landmark first for the city. They have about 25 buildings. The historic ones are City Hall, the Trinidad Golf Course Clubhouse, the Children's Museum, Kit Carson Park, what is that called, Band Shell,
Yeah.
and the Fox West Theater. They have to be completed in construction to be landmarked.
Okay,
So those are the first 5, and the Fox Theater we might change to the Twin Waterworks building. Right.
Yeah, I'd hope that we can get the Fox Theater in, but
And I saw Tent City there, I went to see that mural, there's a mural there that we approved or gave and there was a Tent City there on Sunday.
they must like our mural.
It's like the mural.
Maybe they're just camping along
There's 2
it.
tents camped out there.
what mural is that?
It's, you can't see it
You
from the
can't
road,
see
it's
it,
right by
yeah.
Inbank, and
It
it's
says
the
Waterworks Building,
Oh, yeah,
and if
yeah,
you
yeah.
walk down in there, it's that
It's a
wall.
beautiful
along the
mural.
Yeah, it's a really nice mural. You can see it when you're on the bike path.
Yeah,
Right,
there's a mural painted in my cottage too that somebody did that's really very unique, but
interesting.
yeah,
That's interesting.
it's probably not signed though, unfortunately.
Nice. Okay, any other discussion on item A? And 6B, Historic Preservation Commission budget review updates of our request.
I think I mentioned this last month, that I forwarded that on to the city manager and copied our CFO, and our CFO Cheryl is to take it to before the city council for marijuana money.
Do you have the date of that meeting yet?
No, I don't. It's a quarterly meeting.
Quarterly meeting. Well, if you can let us know so we can attend that,
Yeah.
to be present.
Okay.
And we can talk about this more in work session or at some point, wondering about just the source of funding for this commission and, looking at another, source aside from the marijuana money, quote unquote, so that it's something that we can, I don't know how, I'd like to understand better how the other boards and commissions are funded and supported through the city so that we can look at what would make sense to make sure that this commission is stable and supported and not subject to the variations of the cannabis
Good idea.
revenue.
I agree with that, so.
Okay. Noted. It might be turning into marijuana from marijuana to mushrooms. Since it was
Yeah.
approved, who knows?
Okay, so you'll let us know of the city council date that we can show up and if we.
Yeah, I've noted that
Okay,
that date needs to be attended by HPC.
thank you so much. 6C, planning for our 2023 Echoes of History event. Discussion about the event site plans and activities. So we're at about 3:22. I do think, you know, if we go over in meetings and we decide that that's necessary, we can. I really like us to be able to stay at an hour. If we're able to, but if we feel like we want to take time to talk about that now, or if we're gonna defer those discussions until our work session, what do you guys think? Work session?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That
I'd
would
just
be
like
my
to ask permission, I talked to one person about coming to that meeting, if that's okay, that's the head of the new Space to Create. That we might use that as a building for one of our events, part of the event. That's the new girl, that's Margie Farindelli.
Oh.
She's the site coordinator for the
Oh.
Space to Create
Oh.
and the Main Street. So our effort to
Okay.
coordinate with other people.
Yeah.
And maybe, because that was an $18 million historic renovation there, or three of those buildings were.
So you guys said last year was the first
Yes.
Echoes of History, and where was that?
It was at Tom Murphy's
Oh, okay.
Chappelle House.
And at the History Museum.
Okay.
Yeah, two places, we had a 4-hour, about a 3-hour.
And I think if we
Wellington.
could, maybe the discussion now could be just about, in preparation for our work session,
Right.
if we could be thinking about answering a couple questions from each commissioner's perspective.
Approve it or something, or
Pardon?
what kind of questions?
Well, the question would be, what would you like to see in terms of our next outreach event? In terms of audience, we've talked about trying to target youth and trying to, you know, reinvigorate interest in historic preservation. But what are the, what are the top 3 elements of this next round, 2023, that you'd like to see in terms of the content, the audience, and even just the, I know we've had discussion about how long it should be 1 day, should it be a day and a half? Just, if you could hone in on that and try to keep it brief, but at least those sort of, or if you have other parameters that are important, that's fine too. But let's just try to at least take 5 or 10 minutes each at that work session to say what's important to you. What do you want this to look like? Because this is gonna take some work. We need to talk about who's going to be our event coordinator, what our roles are as a commission in helping make sure that this comes off and that we do a good job, all that stuff. But if we could at least respond to those 3 things. I didn't necessarily, and again, this is just me and whatever you all think, you know, I wonder if at the work session, if we could just take like maybe the first I'm thinking we're talking 60 to 90 minutes for a work session. What do you think?
Sure.
Yeah, that's
So
a good
max at 90 minutes. And if we say, I just think that there's still, again, some process issues in terms of our meetings, and we've talked about packet preparation, we've talked about process related to the commission. I would like to take part of that meeting for that, and I'll be responsible for figuring out what that would look like. But if we take the first part of the meeting, so no more than the first 30 minutes max for infrastructure stuff, and then the rest of the time for echoes planning.
Okay, that's good.
That's our shorthand, echoes.
Do you mean location? I'm sorry, infrastructure?
No, she means, I think you mean, well, you can explain.
No, I just,
Let me see
I
if I understand it. Do you mean
all the things
infrastructure
that
that we talked about, policy and procedure for
yes,
For
like,
our
the
commission.
commission meetings and approving architectural plans and approving landmarking?
yes, that
Okay.
is what I mean.
That's the first 30 minutes. So that we also
Tablets.
Carlos understands.
We need a council liaison. There are a number of things that we need
Oh, a council liaison.
really, strengthen and stabilize the commission.
So those
And
are
I think
good
if we
to
don't stay
stabilize.
on those, if we don't
The
keep,
budget source,
they'll fall by the wayside, and we need to keep.
well, let's do that.
On our
Can you make a
radar.
little list, can you make an agenda with that, all those items? Or I'll help you?
I'll work on.
So you have the agenda for us.
Sure.
I'll help you write. I got the notes already taken. That's a good, I agree, and then 30 to 40 minutes on the day-long session. We budgeted for a day-long session and having a luncheon. So like 9 to 4, 9 to 3. And trying to take people to different places that have been landmarked or city buildings that are, and having architects speak too, aren't we? Trying to have architects speak.
Well, that's the things that we need to we need to
Yeah,
talk about.
yes.
So we're just on the the cusp of sort of saying what we want this to look like. This is our first meeting for the 2023 event, so
Right.
I think we just need to
Right,
brainstorm.
brainstorm.
And then we can come back in and
Right.
hone it down and say, what do we really want this to look like?
I would like to make a save the date, so we could get a date.
Absolutely,
Established
so
for
that's,
other
we need
people.
to add that to this meeting. I think the
Save
save
the
the
date.
date is super important.
Just a
And if we
little-
can, to do
just gotta
that.
get that on everybody's agenda, and if we take it to the space to create, to reserve space, we have to have a
That's
date.
right, we have to,
If we take it to anybody to go to their building, we have to have a date.
So I think it's always a good idea, you get a date and then you plan backwards from
Right.
that. And you
Yeah.
put all the details in place, so.
So June 3rd was when we put it on the budget, right? I think that was our
I
date.
think so.
June 3rd was a Saturday.
It's a Saturday, it's that first.
So, right, first Saturday after the first
after the
Friday.
first Friday. Say that 3 times fast. First Saturday
First Saturday after the first Friday that they have the
in
downtown.
June.
So we could link into the downtown space
Yes.
walk or art gallery walk.
So yes, reserving the space and the date is super important for
On the
sure.
third. What date did you say?
June 3rd.
Saturday?
Saturday, June 3rd was our proposed date. So at least we have that, and then we have the meeting on the 14th that we can,
Yes,
like you say,
thank-
brainstorm and then start.
yeah. Anything else on that in preparation for a work session?
No, you did a good job on that.
Thank you. Some good ideas.
Okay, so now we're at number 7 on reports. Chairperson's report, we don't really have a chairperson in place. I don't know if any of the commissioners has a report or anything that you guys want to talk about.
I
It's
just have
Delicio.
one on asked you, I got a message on Thursday to go to a walkthrough at the East Street
How
School
was
by Paul Glenn or the guy that did the press. It was amazing. They have done, it's a $6.7 million project. And they have supposedly gonna be finished by December, although it looks like more like May or something. But they might get it done faster, but it's 13 units and rental space for culinary students or art students. And supposedly 5 of the 13 are rented, and Mr.
Alright.
Glenn gave a tour, and there's a basement where the gym was, is it gonna be the kitchen with eight kitchens,
Stations or something.
stations, right, and a big they don't have the equipment in there yet, but it's really an amazing building, cause it was a school for elementary kids, and the huge windows they preserved.
Oh,
And our own kitchen stadium.
I'll tell you, there's just the bathrooms and the kitchens are real small, so you have this huge, I don't know.
that common
bigger
area
than my
or?
house. Well, a common area too with the, I don't know, a little chef, or I guess tasting place for the chefs to bring it upstairs, but the apartments are just unusually huge, really high ceilings and big windows, and he's done a great job of, and then they'll have an outdoor commons area to have music events, and he's the one that's done the Presbyterian church, but he is totally into the preservation of Trinidad, he loves it, and he had another group tour, but I guess 5 of them are already pre-rented.
Is it market rate or is it?
I don't know what the rate is, I had to call somebody else, he wasn't the leasing agent, but it's probably I don't know, it's a good question. Dana Crawford is involved with that, it is on, what is it, near 8th?
Oh,
Near Oak Avenue
on
and
that
Second,
shelf.
it's
Yeah.
3rd Street, it's really an interesting
Sit there in
place.
Oak.
But they have a great, and he does walkthroughs once in a while, so I just wanted to tell you about East Street School,
Nice, thank you.
so that's all I had.
Shirley, do you have anything?
I don't.
Alice?
No, I'm just excited to get my book whenever I get that.
Sure.
And then, yeah, I guess the work session, I'll get to learn a little bit more of what's going on, stuff like that. The one thing, I mean, and I brought this up when I came up and talked to you guys, when you guys approved me, but I really wanna make some movement on this Wheeler Stone that's north
that's
of
right.
town over here.
I went and looked, I actually, did I walk down or
Is
did I
that
drive?
the end of Topeka?
I drove, so there's like a dirt.
Yeah, it looks like a little alleyway, but you can see it, it's out there in the back.
I was a
But
little nervous about proceeding, cause I thought somebody might not want me there, so I didn't.
I've been there several times, nobody's said anything, cause it is actually a road right away, so it's on city property. But it was when it was placed there was September 2nd, 1873. And if you do the math, this next September 2nd is gonna be the 150th
Mhm.
year anniversary of it.
Well, we should
So,
put that on the agenda for
It would,
next month.
yeah, so it'd be nice if we can like maybe plan something for that and even, maybe just have
Is that date
somebody.
again, I'm sorry.
Is that associated with like the Wheeler expedition that
Yes,
came through and
exactly.
mountains are named after? and-
Yep. September 2nd, 1873,
Wow,
that's when it was placed there.
do you wanna tell them?
So it was 3 years prior to Trinidad being incorporated.
And it's a
It predates Trinidad.
road marker, right?
It's a astronomical marker, so they set it there and what
A
it, what,
mapping station.
yeah, what his Wheeler's,
USGS.
Lieutenant Wheeler's, his, I guess, surveyor or astronomer, what he did is he went and set out there and he set a transit station on there for, I think it was a week, and you just continually just do star measurements off of it, continually until you get, using ephemeruses and stuff like this, you can figure out exactly where you are positioned on the earth.
I
And so
had
they
no
use that
idea
to
that
know.
something like that existed.
Yeah, so they knew exactly where that position of that thing is, and then they just ran surveys off of that stone
Wow.
to map out the whole west here.
How did you learn that
USGS.
info about?
My survey,
Work.
passed, you know, I'm a huge nerd about all of that,
Yeah,
about
yeah.
all the old survey principles and how old surveys were conducted, and I've done a lot of research with some of the Wheeler stuff when I was with the Forest Service, so. And then I knew that there was one in Georgetown, and I started looking up that stuff, and then I came to learn that there was. Yeah. See, I think there were 7 of them. There were 7 of them placed in the state, and only 3 of them exist. So the one in Georgetown exists, the one here, and then there's one in Julesburg.
Is it under the freeway or close to the freeway? Is that what
For
you said?
Georgetown
No, the
or
one-
here, it's right above the freeway. It's right at the end of Topeka if you're coming off of the park. So it's on the west side of the highway. It's just stone there. There is pictures. What I'll do is there's a circular that the USGS put out about all these stones.
So you
And
can
it's
get
like-
a point and
Yeah, it's
go
like
to it.
40 some pages, but explains the whole story of everything.
Mm.
But what was I gonna bring up about that? It details like when it was placed and anything like that, but it also tells like who put it there, the workers, the conditions. It actually shows some old drawings that he took when he was sitting over there. He did a drawing of the peak over
Was the
here, and then
town was already here.
it was just a little village, so he has a couple little houses on the little drawing that he did of it. But it was like, it was one of the only drawings to exist prior to Trinidad becoming a town.
Wow, well,
So-
that is a very important, if we can get that on the next agenda, we can.
Yeah,
if you
yeah, I
want
would,
to-
I would love to do that.
That'd be a good idea.
I wonder
What
if
do
it
we do
would.
with it?
Well, we need to try to get some money for him, right, to get it.
Yeah, I mean-
Yes, absolutely.
Who owns it?
Who owns it, you
It's
know?
on city property, so I don't think
Oh,
there's
yeah.
really an ownership to it. I mean, it's used by surveyors that come to the area to kind of, because it's a known monument in the area to set up on.
Interesting.
I've used it when I've done surveys here. But I think maybe if we could even just get a plaque or something over there, just cause nobody knew what it was, nobody knows what it is, you know? It is, because of its proximity to the highway, you know, a lot of the pollutants from the highway have degraded that stone, so it used to have lettering and stuff carved on the side of it, it's all gone.
Would it make sense, and I don't wanna over,
Yeah, I don't wanna
I mean,
keep on going on.
no, but to have, cause I think it's just amazing and awesome to hear this, but to have perhaps one of either our meeting, I don't know if December or maybe January would be soon enough to actually have you do like a little presentation, I mean, invite perhaps some press and even the school, so all of this I'm thinking is, so we've talked about, trying to involve youth and other people.
Mhm.
You know, you talked about being I don't know what you call
Well,
yourself, a
that's all
survey nerd, or what you say?
Yeah, a survey nerd.
Yeah, you know, the way to make it cool, right, or to be.
Geo nerd.
Yeah, cause I think that's, other people would love to hear about that
Yeah,
too.
and a lot of people don't know it's there,
Yeah.
they don't realize like how old it is, and I mean,
So
that thing predates most of the buildings here in town.
Put a stance around it, like you
Yeah.
do, but.
Why wouldn't it
Some
be like
stress.
a historical marker
Yeah.
that CDOT would have on,
Oh, that's an
or,
idea,
you know?
CDOT.
I mean, it should, I mean, it would be nice to have, I mean, it does have to have, we do have to have access for land sewers to be able to use it, because it is still
Oh, I see.
a used monument, but
Okay.
just to have some kind of,
What if you want to, can you try to go to CDOT and ask them if they can help us restore it, or?
I'll look into that process.
yeah, I
That would
can
be
look
super.
into that kind of stuff too.
And speaking of plaques, I hate to bring up another topic, but I did see Phil, if we can talk now.
Well, I
Phil,
do,
or you
if we
finish
can
what
just
you're doing.
finish.
No, I'm
this
done,
thought.
I'm done with that, I just,
However this
that's my big
looks,
thing, that's my big thing I wanna push to the.
thank you so much for remembering to bring that up, and, you know, if we can somehow just highlight, bring awareness to this, whether it's through CDOT, doing some community education, getting a story, you know, in the paper so people, some way
I might
to-
be even be able to contact the guy who did
Yeah.
the actual USGS paper, cause he is in Denver,
Mm.
and he might be wanting to come down here to talk about it
And maybe
too.
we could do a little documentary on it for Trinidad Times TV, I don't know, I mean, I just think that there's,
Mhm.
it's just a way to engage people, cause it's very cool and very interesting.
Yeah,
And,
yeah,
you know, so, and I think it also brings, you know, I think this is why we're doing historic
Exactly.
preservation, this
Exactly.
is the value of the commission, and you wanna kind of do all those things if you
Yep.
can, so. Can we just make sure we keep this on the radar, and maybe we could even add a agenda item,
Sure.
what do we wanna call it?
Wheeler
New
Stone,
business.
Wheelerstone,
Wheelerstone.
New business.
but yeah, but identified as Wheelerstone so that we know we wanna kinda keep,
So Carlos,
keep
is
working
it
on
just is it a stone or is it one of those brass markers like a lot of the
no, it's just, it's probably it's probably 2.5 by 2.5 feet in circumference, and then it's probably about 3 3.5 feet off the ground. So it's fairly big stone, and then on the top is this metal bolt, an iron bolt, and that's what we used to set the transit on to do all the mapping. But
It's kinda high, isn't it?
yeah, it is, and that's, in order to measure that, you gotta kind of stand up on top of it, or you have to have a ladder next to it to set up on it, because that's what I've had to do several times, setting up on top of it.
Thank you so much for talking about that, Carlos. And Jean, what were you wanting to?
We asked about Dave Phillips and the landmarking plaque that we already made for the Fort
Oh,
Wooten.
Bill
Oh, right,
Phillips
right.
at
Bill
Fort
Phillips.
Wooten.
And they want us to send a date that we wanna come and maybe have a reception, or I was trying to find out when they have other things going on, which they have on Friday. They have the big Veterans Day thing going on for
Yeah.
breakfast, but that's kinda short notice to set the plaque and.
Excellent.
But I did talk to Bill Phillips and what's the other guy, the president,
Newton
Luton.
does.
and they just said, cause Luton's been gone for 2 months, so it wouldn't have been any good to talk to them, but when, I'll go find out what their next calendar event is, and maybe we can correlate with their next event at the Luton and.
So they have their
They have
plaque,
the plaque,
they just
they want-
haven't put it up yet. They wanna have a ceremony, with the city and the
PR,
mayor
press
like we've
release.
done before.
With the landmark, and they wanna put it out there by the flag, the circular internal
Sure.
flag post, so. Just wanna keep you informed that I did get a
Oh,
follow up on
good.
that.
Thank you so
Sounds
much.
good.
Thank you for checking on
And
that.
I'll check again to make sure what date they want.
Most excellent. Anything else before we adjourn?
Oh, I was gonna mention the openings that we have. I think there's an opening for the new planner, which I thought I grabbed, but apparently this is another job opening,
The other one,
which,
what's that one called?
this one is administrative assistant. It must be for the front desk.
Hmm.
So we'll have that opening, the planner is open right now, upcoming will be, Kent is leaving, so we'll need an inspector.
Wow.
Victor's leaving, so we'll need, whatever Victor does, we'll need something
Nobody
for his. I don't know what Victor does, but, we'll need
Short
somebody,
job description.
he works in permits,
Permits.
know that.
There's a lot of-
but I just wanted to mention those items
Oh, wow.
that, those
Website.
openings.
On
And,
the website?
oh, it's really hard to find, you have to go and search for Jobs City of Trinidad, you can't find it from our website, I can't explain that.
Is this what the new communications position is gonna
I
be
believe
taking
there's-
care of all of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I believe the communications coordinator will be putting all of that together.
Okay.
Make sure
And,
all of our meetings are listed at appropriate times on
That
the
would,
calendar.
that would be wonderful.
The website.
That'd be
One
awesome.
of many essential duties.
If I didn't see your email for today, I would have missed today.
Oh,
And I would have been here at 5 o'clock, but I saw that last email they
I'm
sent, I was
glad
like,
I
oh my
sent
god.
that out.
Oh, and then you put yellow on the 2:30.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, that might be, I don't know.
if this is not a good time, you know, we can always go back to original time, but I just wanted to try
I'm
it
okay
out
with it.
in
Are you alright
August.
with it?
Yeah, I'm fine with
You
it.
sent an
Anybody
email
else?
to Derek with that highlighted
Yes.
2:30, and I
So
saw
I
it.
don't wanna keep flip-flopping
Oh, yeah,
about it.
no,
If
it's-
we're gonna stay at this time,
Good.
If
Well,
it works
I
for
work for
y'all,
you.
I'm happy
Yeah.
for, I'm
okay,
happy
let's
for
just,
that.
let's table that. Let's
Yeah.
not
That's
talk
great.
about that.
And then the last thing I had was I attended a meeting for the preservation of Highway 12, which
What?
I didn't know that this group existed, but they want to co-group with somebody, like do a subcommittee. And I told them, you know, I didn't even know how I got invited to this meeting, but if there's any way I can help, or we can, historic preservation can help them out, we definitely want to. You know, it is outside of the city limits, but we still try to preserve the corridor for Highway 12, however we can,
It's
so,
a national byway.
There's
Yes.
a national register bridge up
and
on
yeah, and there's a
Oh, good
historic
point,
bridge
Good point, Shirley.
up there that,
that way.
that we need to to recognize. So, I just told them that if there's any upcoming meetings, that they be sure to let us know, so we
It's a
could.
local
Is it a
group?
county thing, or? Yeah, local, or?
It sounds like people from the county that live on Highway 12, and they're trying to preserve that highway by
As is.
not the CDOT funding, but getting the grant money together to establish like trails through that you can
Turn off
take.
with like interpretive signs, stuff like
Yes, take establish trails, establish signage, do stuff like that, and get some grant money. And then they wanna do tourism items too, like they were saying, we wanna get a drone and go up Highway 12 and highlight everything that's on that highway, so.
There's a lot of cool old churches on that highway.
Oh, yeah, it's a great place for
Nice.
tourists to go.
So, one final item I did, I forgot I attended the Trinidad Historical Society's fall banquet last week. It was,
Friday.
yeah, a sampling of Sihan true life photos.
Of what?
Is that how you
Say
say it?
that again?
Sehon is the individual that had this photography studio in the area for a long time. It was well attended. I just wanted to get a feel for this long-standing group. Yes, there are a lot of older folks who are keeping this going. Georgie was there, a couple of other people. It was fun to see some of the photographs that they have, and hopefully, I think it would be a good idea for us to become members as a commission. If we can have the city pay our membership dues, I think that would be appropriate. And helpful for us to integrate into, with them, make sure that maybe when we do our Echoes of Trinidad event, that we're working with them so that we're all on the same page. And it was fun, just listening to some of the folks that I was sitting with, because I was just like a fly on the wall with some of the folks who've been living in this area for
Forever.
many moons. And they were saying how, oh gosh, whenever back in the day, this was like the go-to event, people would get really dressed up.
Really?
And, it was kind of a big deal, to go to
Guys
this.
took photos of the event, people that went.
I don't know if they took photos. I didn't see anyone taking photos of the event.
Oh, no, but I mean, when they talked about this same.
Yes, they did a presentation, I'm
About
sorry,
this.
and they used some of the photographs that they got from the A.R. Mitchell Museum.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All the old photographs they have in the basement there?
I don't know, I got.
One
Yeah,
of
they have a
those- one of
huge,
Is that right?
huge collection.
Is that
of them.
right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah, A.R.
ridiculous.
Mitchell's a different photographer, that is, I forget the name of his. but
Well,
this is a
they
different
said
group.
that's where they got the photos, so I don't know if they were in storage there, or if we're talking about the same thing or not, but it's just
Yeah.
kind of interesting that we're all kind of working on the same things, but we don't
Exactly.
really work
See,
Yeah.
together.
They did come to a couple of our online meetings, this group, but we need to see if they can,
Yeah.
come to the meeting and see what we're doing too. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I think that'd be worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Worth
there's-
together.
It was really
Involved in somehow, if we can meet anybody in that group that wants to.
Well,
join.
Georgie's in the group, I think if we can figure out how to coordinate more with them, that would be.
Yeah.
I wish I would've known about that, I would've went.
So I reached
Yeah,
out,
it was fun.
I reached out to their website or email, and somebody did get back with me, but they were like, we're gonna have to wait a month or two or something like that. And
They're not-
And then I've never heard from them
They
again.
don't
So
really,
maybe I'll
they're
reach
pretty
out to them
loosely
again.
organized, they don't have a lot of tech, support or know-how, so
I wonder-
they're, good folks, but they're just kind of doing their thing they've done forever, so.
And I don't know who keeps the files, but somebody, getting those files, they have this, the historical families of their.
Well, they are, the gal that presented, I will forget her name. She is actually going through all these photos and categorizing them. I don't know that they've digitized anything yet, but that is their goal. So they have this big project, and I don't even know how if they're officially organized as a nonprofit or if it's just a loose-knit group of folks. Are they a 501c3?
I don't think so, but.
The Mitchell?
Well, the Mitchell is, but
Historic.
this group is called.
Oh,
Trinidad
that one.
Historical.
Yeah.
They're not
Society.
associated with the city,
No.
but it's kind of like a private Society.
Yeah, they've been around, they've been having meetings for a long time.
Where do they meet at?
Well, I think they
I
do
couldn't
this,
even get there.
Here?
I thought it was here.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
They meet here.
They do have like a alumni group that meets in Denver too.
well, that's another group though, so that's Friends of Historical
Historical
Trinidad, that's a group that lives remotely, or
They're remote, they're not
people that are from here, but they live
Right.
someplace else. Trinidad Historical Society, it took me a long time to figure this out.
Wow.
And then, of course, Historic Preservation Commission, so we each have a little bit of a different role, but very much a lot of overlap. So that's all I have, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'm glad you went, I wish I could've gone.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Call roll, aye.
The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, I'm glad you went to that, I wanna see that. Do you remember the lady's name? I'll call her now.